President Trump at a cabinet meeting yesterday addressed the situation with China as it pertains to the escalating tariffs in both directions, saying, we'll get a deal done. Don't you fret.
Well, we'll see what happens with China. We would love to be able to work a deal. They've really taken advantage of our country for a long period of time. They've ripped us off beyond nobody. How people stood for it, sitting in my position, is not even believable. And we're talking about many presidents, not just a couple. But they did, and all we're doing is putting it back in shape. We're resetting the table. And I'm sure that we'll be able to get along very well. I have great respect for President Xi. He's been, in a true sense, he's been a friend of mine for a long period of time. And I think that we'll end up working out something that's very good for both countries. I look forward to it.
Well, one of Trump's most vociferous supporters, particularly on this topic over the last several days, has been Shark Tank's Kevin O'Leary.
Mr. Wonderful, we call him.
We don't. You can. He was on MSNBC yesterday, raging again in the direction of China. A lot of it based, he says, on his personal business experience with the Chinese trying to do business in China. And he wants the Chinese Communist Party to change their ways, and this is the time to do it.
You got Xi.
Okay.
He's the supreme leader for life. What keeps him in power?
Yes.
Keeping people employed and fed. Now, when you shut down a factory, I think Janice Mackey-Frere just on before me, he's talked about this. When you shut down a factory, you put thousands, if not tens of thousands of people unemployed in China. They take burning torches, just like in a Frankenstein movie, up to the castle, and that's a bad outcome for the supreme leader. He knows that. Now, what's the largest consumer market on earth? The United States. Almost 40% of all goods consumed worldwide. What's the largest GDP? 25 or 26% GDP of the world? The United States of America. China needs the United States of America. We have the upper hand right now. We have the cards. Now's the time to settle this, because we may not be the largest economy forever, but right now we can squeeze Chinese, and I'm talking about the government, not the people, to comply with the laws and get a level playing field between China and the United States of America. If it takes a little volatility, a little indigestion, a little acid reflux, I don't care. I want this thing worked out now, because I can show you countless occurrences of where I've backed, as an investor, a company that gets to $5 million in sales with a consumer good or service on Amazon, on Alibaba, and then as soon as it hits $5 million, it's knocked off. They steal the IP, they manufacture it there, they sell it back into this market. I'm not okay with it. I'm not okay with that anymore.
That's the nature of the...
For more on, the Chinese impasse in particular, but the tariff strategy in general, and the coming impacts, in addition to the ones already felt, Scott the Cow Guy Shellady joins us, market specialist for Market Day Report, 10:30 to 1. He's also the host of the Cow Guy Close, 1 to 1:30, both at RFD-TV. Scott the Cow Guy, thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Good Friday morning.
Yes, same. And so, are you as intense about this reckoning that must come now as Kevin O'Leary?
He's obviously smarting because he's got businesses over there that get hosed, but yeah, I'm in his camp on that one. I'm not as angry as he is, but absolutely. We've treated them with kid gloves for a long time. We treat them like they're still a third world country at the UN. I think they still get most favored nation status. It's a joke. But the rest of the world doesn't know it. And I got to know it when I was running a tech company in London about 20 years ago. He's right about the IP. They steal between $500 billion and $1 trillion worth of IP, intellectual property rights from us every year. It's absolutely maddening, but no one really does anything about it. Everybody turns the other cheek, and it's been the state of play. But for his comments about, are you going to have a little bit of indigestion? There's been some indigestion, but I think at the end of the day, look, how about this? We had indigestion when we had 9.1% in the inflation for no good reason under Joe Biden. We had indigestion. We had 10 million people come over our border and make our cities not safe. We had, indigestion with what was happening with our moral turpitude of our country And now we got nothing for it. Well, you know what? Maybe we're going to get something for this indigestion this time around.
Well, I mean, so what's the play in your mind if you are part of the team advising Trump? Is and what do you see from what he's done so far? What does it indicate he's angling to do? Is this are we going to completely decouple from China and figure out where else $600 billion worth of goods is going to be exchanged, or should there be a strategic decoupling on certain things? What do you think?
I have a show where I speak to a lot of people in the financial community. There are some people on my show that work for big banks and some people that have their own firms. And some of those people refuse to invest in China. Some of those people refuse to take their customers' assets and buy Chinese stocks here in the U.S. And I think that those people are going to be made right in the long run. Now, they've missed out maybe on some opportunities, but they've taken the stance that it's untenable to want to get into bed with China. And that goes to the fact that, are you going to see China be part of this BRICS new reserve currency? Who wants China to be in charge of the reserve currency? I mean, it's farcical if you ask me. So I'm in the camp that I think right now he's got basically a structural embargo, right? I mean, and Scott Besson said it the other day. The Chinese can raise their tariffs all they want because it just doesn't matter. It's like that movie Meatballs. He's got 4.5 times as much stuff here than what we buy from them.
Right,
almost 5 times, 5 to 1.
Are they implementing the tariffs? I mean, are they doing it, or is this just talk? I mean, do you actually think that they're implementing the tariffs right now, collecting?
No, I think that they're not. There's just not going to be no goods. They're not going to. It's not going to happen. We just have these. Like I said, it's like a structural embargo, a de facto embargo. But we're not. There's not going to be any trade at those levels of those prices. I mean, say goodbye to your Temu and your Shine.
What do you think about Adam Schiff and others that say this is market manipulation by Trump putting on Truth Social to buy, and then a half hour later he puts a 90-day pause on the tariff program? I mean, it's not as if Democrats haven't been doing that, getting insider trading information for years.
It's not insider trading when it's made public. That's idiocy.
Yeah, I mean, he needs to go look at the term. I mean, it's insider trading if I just tell you and just tell you and Dan. If I put it out on broadcast, I mean, that's an embarrassingly stupid thing for him to say, and no one will call him on it because it's absolutely downright dumb. It's not insider trading when you broadcast something like that. So probably, you know what? It's dumb that he didn't buy. That's better. How about that?
So your market outlook in this environment where maybe we'll be cutting deals with our allies. Maybe we'll get some sort of deal, as Trump indicated, with China. Maybe it looks like marginal move in the direction of a freer and ostensibly fair trade, a la NAFTA to USMCA, and maybe none of that happens. What's your crystal ball say for the next couple of quarters?
It could be rather volatile. I don't know. I think it will slowly but surely settle down because people do get sick of it and they get immune to it, just like we did the Russia-Ukraine war when it comes to the markets. But I will say this. I think that there will be some people that acquiesce and come to the table because Donald Trump's not for punitive trade. I think he's for fair trade. This war that we're having, this trade war that we're having with China, it needs to happen because they have been the world's largest abuser, and every other country knows that. It's not just us. And whether he planned it or whether he backed into it or not, getting a lot of these other countries on our side and cutting some deals with them for free trade while at the same time leaving China out could be a masterful plan. I think it will be all okay in the end. I actually went out. I very rarely just buy single stocks myself, but I got so angry with this stuff because it's so overblown what's been happening in the market. We've got a $32 trillion economy here, and we're talking about $400 billion worth of tariffs. I mean, come on. It's like these robots that trade these markets are so hypersensitive to the word tariff. This is tempest in a teacup, and it's been blown way out of proportion. So, folks, this will pass. But I will say this: for 6 months, we're going to have a difficult time. You do not see 3,000-point rallies in the Dow in bull markets. Bull markets do not shoot higher like that; they grind higher. So that was a flag to me that we still have some downside to go, or at least some big time volatility. Don't take that as the 2 days ago, that rally, as something that says this is done. When you see rallies like that, that's usually, most often, almost all the time in a bear market, or at least a short-term bear market. So I still think we have some difficult times ahead.
And difficult times include the prospect of a recession before the year is out?
I think I've been saying on my show for the last 3 years we've been in a recession. Remember, in 2022, we had 2 negative quarters of GDP, and the government came out and said that's not a recession anymore. We changed the definition.
Right.
Well, guess what? Middle America, you couldn't change their feeling. That is why Donald Trump got elected. 70% of the people out there felt as though we were in a recession. They went to the polling booths in November and voted that way with Donald Trump.
And so what do you think Trump's play is here? I mean, are we going to essentially follow the model of some of these, command control economies, as well as Western European economies, which are sort of de facto command control, not as much as China, but in that direction? An industrial policy, and we're going to, instead of subsidizing consumption, which is what we do in this country, I mean, this people maybe don't appreciate this. I mean, we subsidize housing, we subsidize college education, we subsidize consumption through transfer programs, entitlement programs. I mean, we subsidize consumption. These other countries subsidize production. Is Trump just flipping the script here?
Yeah, yes, I think so. I do. I think, and the path that we've been on, is unsustainable. And we, this issue that he's put in our laps, all this market tumult that he's put in our laps, was going to be put in our laps in the next 4 to 8 years, 5 to 10 years, if you ask me. He's just pulled it forward. We cannot continue on this path of spending money we don't have. We spent $10 trillion over COVID, in a year either side of it. $10 trillion. The world spent $20 trillion on all of the economies in the world for that COVID period, and we spent half. I mean, that's insane. And we did that because we wanted to mask over the fact that our economy was not doing very well, i.e. the 2022 recession. So all we did with the Biden administration was spend to buy a positive GDP so that he never had to have a recession on his hands. And I'll tell you this, our numbers here, the research here says that the fine for every $5 we spent, the taxpayer money, only bought us $1 of GDP. We couldn't even cheat well. So I think he's flipping the script, and I think this issue was going to be in our laps anyway. And I'd rather deal with it today than I would 4 years, 5 years ago.
Well, thinking about these dynamics sort of at a macro level. So on the one hand, let's again, these are all hypotheticals based on things that are in process actually coming true. So one is reduce spend by $1.5 trillion. That's the framework that came out of the House yesterday. We'll see. Reduce government spend by that much. Get the tax cuts extended and roll in the other promises made over time, the Social Security tips. And then also, essentially, with higher import prices, suppress consumption and subsidize production, which, these protectionist policies do have a tendency to mute domestic production because they disrupt supply chains. That's essentially what Delta Airlines was saying when they pulled back earlier this week. But say all that stuff happens. So what does that look like for the American economy going forward?
Well, I still will bet that the economy gets better if we're starting to do more. I understand the manufacturing argument. I like the idea of making more of our own stuff, and there is, I guess, something to be said for a little bit of a national security issue when it comes to making sure that we have our own, rare earths and our pharmaceuticals. I get that too. But I do think it will make the country stronger the more we do for ourselves. And, for a long time, we've been giving away. I mean, Dan, we're essentially doing one thing right now. We're selling bonds to raise capital to pay the interest on our debt and give the other part to Ukraine. I mean, this is insane.
Well, I understand,
so
but that conflates a couple issues. I mean, you can reduce government spending without pursuing an industrial policy at the same time that even Trump's trade advisor or one of his top advisors, Peter Navarro, who, it's an interesting guy to listen to. I'm not a fan either, but he said the tariffs could cost the U.S. economy $6 trillion over 10 years. Now, I don't believe his projections on the rosy side or the downside, but he makes those sorts of predictions as if $6 trillion over 10 years is not a big deal, and it is a big deal.
Well, that just proves to you what I've been saying for probably the last 3 years. Anybody in that part of the world doesn't understand how big a trillion is. Just real quick, if you want to burn a trillion seconds, how about you want to burn 1 million seconds off a clock? You know how long that takes? It takes 12 days to burn 1 million seconds off a clock. If you want to burn 1 billion seconds off a clock, it takes 31 years. So 1 billion seconds ago was 31 years ago. Now, if you want to burn 1 trillion seconds off a clock, it takes 31,700 years. So 31,700 years ago was 1 trillion seconds ago. That's why when these guys throw the word trillion around in Washington, they have no idea how big it is. If you got $1 million a day since Jesus Christ was born, you would still not have $1 trillion. And so he's talking about $6 trillion like it's no big deal. Well, it's a big deal, but I don't think it's going to happen. But the old notion that you've got Nancy Pelosi talking about $7 trillion spending bills and then Navarro dropping $6 trillion in 10 years. This is why we're in trouble. They don't understand the magnitude of the money.
And so, right. And so your view, just so I'm capturing it accurately, is, how this all nets out. So long as you get the spending restraint that has been advertised, so long as you advance the tax relief from 2017 forward, that and ostensibly we'll come to terms with at least our allies when it comes to trade, something similar or perhaps slightly better than what we were doing before, that we continue to carry on and we go back to the days of 3% and 4% GDP growth.
Yes, I will bet on America that way. Yes, I will.
All right.
I will. Because I believe this issue is going to be on our lap regardless. He just brought it forward. That's all.
Scott the Cow Guy Shellady, market specialist for Market Day Report, 10:30 to 1 p.m., and the host of the Cow Guy Close, 1 to 1:30, both at RFD-TV. Scott the Cow Guy, thanks as always.
Have a great weekend.
You too, and he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Before you see it on TV, share it on Facebook, or read about it in the paper. Hear it here first. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.